Let's talk about something you probably never, ever think about. That little shaker on your kitchen table. But what if I told you it's not just a mineral? What if I told you that simple grain holds the secret to building empires, sparking revolutions, and, well, pretty much the entire story of us?
Yep, there it is, right on your table, every single day. You sprinkle it on your food without even thinking about it, right? It's just salt. But that simple, almost automatic little gesture, it connects you directly to a story that's thousands and thousands of years old.
Because here's the thing. What if inside every single one of those tiny little crystals, there's a history of unbelievable wealth, a brutal power, and yeah, even bloody rebellion? What if the story of salt is actually our story? All right, so to really get this, we've got to rewind the clock, way back. We're talking about the dawn of civilization, when our ancestors first figured out how to get their hands on the stuff they eventually started calling white gold. So how'd they even do it? Well, it wasn't as simple as just scooping it up from the beach. This process is honestly genius for its time. We're talking as far back as 6000 BC. First, they'd collect the salty water, the brine. Then you got to get the water out, right? So they'd use the sun or a fire. But the real game changer was this bit of tech called briquettage. Basically, they'd pour the brine into these rough clay pots, heat them up, and as the salt formed, they just smash the pot away. And boom, you're left with a perfect, solid block of salt ready to be traded. And this is why it became so incredibly important. I mean, forget just making food taste good, that was a bonus. The number one job for salt was preservation. Suddenly, you could store food through the winter. This is a total game changer. It allows populations to grow, settlements to become towns, and towns to become cities. On top of that, it worked some real magic on our tongues. The ions in salt literally block our bitter taste receptors and amplify sweet and savory ones. It was so crucial that it didn't just create trade routes, it created the cities themselves. Think about places like Salzburg in Austria. That's literally salt fortress. Or English towns ending in wich, like Northwich. They were built right on top of these precious salt deposits. In fact, its value is baked right into our modern language. Ever wonder where the word salary comes from? Well, it's from the Latin salarium. That was the specific allowance Roman soldiers were given to buy salt. Now, they weren't getting paid in literal bags of salt, but they got a special stipend just for it. Think about that. To put it in perspective, at certain points in history, a kilogram of salt was as valuable as a luxury watch is today. Your very worth, your salary, was once measured by your ability to afford this mineral. And you know what happens when something becomes that valuable, right? Governments want to control it. This is where the story takes a darker turn. Salt goes from being the foundation of society to a tool of the state, a way to fund wars, build empires, and control people, often through some seriously oppressive tactics. 7 kilograms. Just let that number sink in. In pre-revolutionary France, under a brutal tax known as the gabelle, this was how much salt every single person over the age of 8 was forced by law to buy from the government every single year. And, of course, they had to buy it at a ridiculously inflated price. And here's where it gets truly outrageous. The tax wasn't even fair. The price was all over the place. Just look at these numbers from 1784. If you lived in an exempt region like Brittany, a big sack of salt might cost you 31 sous. Okay, but if you lived just across the border in Anjou or Berry, in the land of the Great Gabelle, whoa, the price skyrockets to nearly 600 sous. That's an almost 20-fold difference for an essential good, just depending on where you were born. How could people not be furious? This crazy system created a kind of underground war. On one side, you had the faux seigneurs, the salt smugglers. To the people, these guys were heroes, risking their lives to defy a tyrannical law. And on the other side, you had the villains, the gabellas. These were the despised government tax collectors who had the power to search your home, your belongings without any cause, all to enforce the king's monopoly. So it's really no surprise that the gabelle became one of the most hated taxes in all of French history. It was more than just a tax. It was a daily symbol of the monarchy's greed and injustice. And you better believe it was one of the key grievances that lit the fuse for the French Revolution. But the story doesn't stop there. Because just as salt could be a tool to crush people, it could also be turned into a powerful symbol for fighting back. Let's jump to 1930. The British Empire controls India, and just like the French monarchy, it has a monopoly on salt. So, Mahatma Gandhi begins a 241-mile march to the sea. It was an act of pure political genius. As he walked, thousands and thousands of people joined him. When he finally reached the coast at Dundee, he performed a revolutionary act that was stunning in its simplicity. He just bent down, picked up some salty mud, and made salt, openly breaking British law. This one small act sparked mass civil disobedience across the entire country and eventually led to the nonviolent protest at the Darasana's saltworks, where the world watched in horror as peaceful marchers were brutally beat.
With just a handful of a common mineral, Gandhi exposed the moral weakness of the entire British Empire. That simple act of defiance didn't just break a law, it truly shook one of the world's mightiest empires to its very core. So, we've seen salt build society, we've seen it used as a tool of empire, and we've seen it become a symbol of freedom. It's carried this immense weight throughout history, and that brings us to its deepest, most lasting role as a powerful symbol in our culture.
I mean, just look at the incredible contradictory meanings we've given this stuff. Because it preserves, it came to mean eternity. A covenant of salt in the Bible is an unbreakable promise. To share salt with someone was to make a vow of friendship. In Japanese Shintoism, it's used for purification. And yet, there's a dark side. The Romans would famously sow the fields of their enemies with salt to curse the land. And in ancient Egypt, it was essential for mummification, tying it to both life and death.
Friendship and curses, life and destruction, empire and revolution. All of this history, this human drama, is sitting right there on our tables. So the next time you reach for the salt, just pause for a second. Remember the incredible journey it's taken and the human story held within every single grain. What story will you think about?